What up, everybody? What's good? You already know what time it is. I'm trying to space these deck profiles out a little bit, so I'm not just putting one up every week. I definitely like to try and get like something new dialed into the deck or change the ratios around a little bit. But whenever enough people ask for it, it's pretty fun to be able to put one of these out. So current Umi control list. This version that I'm playing right now, I'm very aside from the Halki Fabrax build that we had like a long time ago, this is probably I'm gonna say most, I don't know, like consistent. I don't even know if Halki was the most consistent version by any means. This is just like I don't know. I'm really liking this variant. It's just adding the shark package. I took out some of the unsearchable floodgates. The extra deck is turned around a little bit because of that, but other than that, kind of dialed in some ratios. But this is, again, just the version that I've been playing in most of my builds. I really like how this one has been performing. I think after playing the deck for 6 months, we definitely have it dialed in, or I feel like I do. It doesn't mean that there can't be some spice out there that is still yet to be undiscovered, but it's kind of cool to see the deck taking off a little bit. I think Master Duels is helping push it, which I've never played that shit, but it seems like the deck is gaining a little bit of popularity, which it's always good and bad, but go ahead and actually let me make sure. I'm curious to see what the angles on that look like. So we can do about there. Okay, cool. So one Aqua Maiden still. On my last video, I totally had the Yoshiriru, or whatever the fuck it's called, of the Aqua, and I literally didn't even play it after kind of getting back to the drawing board. The shark package just seems to be way better. If anyone has been playing it and has found any success with it, that's dope. I have not seen any lists popping or floating around that is playing it, so I feel like that might have just been some like failed Konami support, unless we get something else that makes that card good. But if anyone else played it and had success, awesome. But I did just go back to playing the one made in the Aqua. Still one Doom Kraken, 3 Jelly. Card is still the best normal summon in the game. Well, I shouldn't say that now. Kairyu-Shin's the best normal summon in the deck, but no, that's never going to change. I am playing 2 of the Warrior of Atlantis. I cut 1 terraforming for this. The downside to that is, I mean, obviously you can Ash terraforming, but you can Gamma this. This gets hit by Dimensional Shifter. So, I don't know. I do like being able to have an extra body to be able to normal summon, but playing one of this and 1 terraforming I think is probably better, but I'm playing 2 Warrior of Atlantis just because I got the other ultis and I'm gonna, it just seems kind of fun to play. It is good for extra deck plays if you're trying to go for a rank 4 or rank 3 play, I guess, if Legendary Ocean's on the field, but that seldom comes up. It is an Aqua, so you can tribute it with Toad, which is good too. So playing 2 Warrior of Atlantis, bottom line. Shark package, 1 Crystal Shark and 3 Abyss Shark. So this is, I have familiarity with this because of Kraken control, but so with the Shark package, this is what I swapped out, like the D-Fissures and like Summon Limit, Goes and Match. I decided to take those out for this. Reason being, so by playing 3 and 1, I mean, obviously you have a really good chance of opening up Abyss Shark with the Prosperities and the Foolish Burial Goods. Crystal Shark, there's a lot of recursion factor with this engine, whether it be with like the Nash Knight engine for the extra deck, any rank 4, so like Bahamut Dweller plays, or even rank 3, so I can go into Nightmare Shark or Acid Golem if really need be. But the idea being that this just adds a lot of layers of consistency that you can utilize the extra deck with, as opposed to where before you were just playing Unsearchable Floodgates. And I mean, yes, they were impactful, but this gives you a lot more access to your extra deck, which I think is, I mean, a 15-card card pool is really good, especially when it comes to breaking or defending boards. So I really like this. On top of that, the recursion factor that you have with this, with Coral Anemone, is absolutely ridiculous. And so with her being able to special summon 1 monster or water monster with 1500 or less attack from your graveyard, you can always target Abyss Shark and then target Abyss Shark with Crystal Shark to bring Crystal Shark back, so then that way you always have a consistent rank 4 play. So the way that I've been using this engine, I really like it for what it's worth. These are also level 5s as well, so you can protect them with Sea Stealth attack and kind of turn them into beaters if you have Legendary Ocean out on the field, but it you can just normal summon them from hand, and it doesn't matter what the attack of your opponent's monster is if you have the trap card. So taking advantage of the fact that, you know, Sea Stealth attack is broken and you can sit on these is pretty cracked. The fact that they allow you a lot of access to your extra deck I think is really cool as well, and then just the searchability with them. I definitely like this. I do play the one, well here, I guess we'll just keep going. 3 Kairyu-Shin. Bet you didn't see that one coming. That's self-explanatory, I'm not even gonna go into that one. To finish off the shark package though, for the vanilla, I'm playing 1 Terra King Salmon. So, really been struggling to find like a solid warrior. I don't think there's really anything too worthwhile to play off the fortress unless we get some busted water warrior support. I don't know, like nothing really screams. But this, if you open up Crystal Shark, because in order to summon Abyss Shark, you have to be able to search a fish, you play Terra King Salmon. So that way, if you open up all 3, then get fucked. But the idea being that helps keep your Terra King or your Abyss Shark alive, because if you open up the Crystal Shark, you typically wouldn't be able to special summon him because you would have to be able to search this. But because you play this, it just helps keep the engine more consistent. Also, level 5 water, so it helps with the whole Sea Stealth dealio. I also was typically playing Skull Banner in place of this, but I wanted to, like I said, I like to kind of change things up, keep the deck flowing, and try new ideas and whatnot. But this has been working out pretty well. I don't know if you have to play vanilla, but it's more so I was tired of opening up, like if on the rare occasion that you opened up both of these, you wanted to make sure that you had something to search. But the salmon seems to be working out fine. I mean, it really comes down to what you're trying to do with your vanilla. I mean, that you can still play the Giga Chad. This is just what I'm using for this variant because it seems to make sense. 1 whale still, and then the 1 kaiju because you're playing the 1 kaiju. Also, with Crystal Shark, it can target any water monster on the field to special summon itself from its hand, or from your hand or graveyard. It targets a water monster, halves its attack, and then special summons it. You're locked into XYZ monsters for the rest of the turn, but that doesn't matter. But the idea being that if you give your opponent the Gamma Seal, you can target this or target the Gamma Seal and special summon this from your hand. Any of like the tier element water monsters, you can activate it and target those. Sword Soul, I don't know, like there's anything that's a water monster, just know that it doesn't have to be on your side of the field. So there's really, really cool interactions that you can get off with this card. If you can give your opponent like a Gamma Seal, like there was one time I was doing a little testing online and gave my opponent a Gamma Seal, special summon this from hand, and was able to tribute it for Kairyu-Shin. It was stupid, but it works, and so there are niche plays that this can come into play with. Someone is asking me about Crystal Shark, or not Crystal Shark, shit. It's some ultra rare, I can't remember. It's a level 5 shark that drops itself as well. That one's fine, it's a decent extender, but the way that this one is able to recur itself from graveyard and whatnot, I find this one to be the better option. So that would be it for the monster lineup. Again, nothing too crazy with the Warrior Relentances, but if one of those were to be swapped out with the Terraform, that wouldn't necessarily be bad, but this one was more so for the flex factor. Spells, stop me if you've seen this one before. 3 Legendary Ocean, 3 Fish Sonar, 3 Pot of Prosperity, 3 Dark Ruler, Foolish Burial Goods, and Sea Stealth 2. So, nothing really to be said here. Never gonna change, never gonna change. I don't know why you would run any other draw power. I mean, Extravagance doesn't work as well as this. I've seen the A-list that was playing that came out recently. I don't know if they just didn't have Prosperities, but still best search card. I feel it adds an amazing layer of consistency. Dark Ruler no more, just for being able to break boards going second. Obviously winning dice rolls is amazing. If you win a lot of dice rolls, you're typically gonna have a really good time with this deck. If you lose, it's not really the best at breaking boards, but we can do it. But unfortunately, we have to play going second cards. Foolish Burial Goods, even more mandatory now than ever, especially with like the Shark package. Being able to have access to Kairyu-Shin and or Abyss Shark is awesome. So if you see one, you want to be able to search the other. And then Sea Stealth 2. When I get to the traps, we did change some of the ratios around for the Kairyu-Shin trap cards, but with Sea Stealth 2, I've kept this at 1. It is really good. I just don't know if I can find room for it at 2 with the way that I bumped up everything else. But Yeah, still playing one. I don't think I've ever needed a second one because of the recurability with, or I guess the searchability with Kairyu-Shin. You typically, having 4 copies of this, you should be able to win a duel before going out with all 4. And then also with Sea Stealth Attack, you can even bring it back from the graveyard. So in the sense, you're running more than 4 copies. Traps. So I bumped up the Dark Reef to, well, I guess this was been at 2, my apologies. So Dark Reef at 2, I still think that that's more than okay. I wouldn't necessarily recommend 3, but 1 might not be enough. Sea Stealth Attack, I did bump this up to 2. And with focusing more heavily on the level 5 monsters, I think that this was fine. There was a gentleman Wales that his channel, he did like a profile that was kind of based off mine, and so he's put a lot of effort into the deck as well. So he was talking about the ratios, and it kind of got me thinking. I was like, all right, I'll bump it up and I'll try it out, and 2 seems to be working quite fine. So I do like the idea of 2 and 2, but because you're playing 2 Sea Stealth Attack on top of 3 Legendary Ocean and the 1 Sea Stealth 2, you may or more or less are kind of playing 6 copies because you can recur it twice. So there is, again, with the Sea Stealth 2, I don't know if I can necessarily justify bumping it up to 2, but this at 2 I have really been liking, especially if they out the first one, being able to search a second one and reestablish, like whether it be a Legendary Ocean or just being able to protect your Kairyu-Shin and get your monsters off field. It is pretty nice, and I think a lot of people were kind of picking up on the fact that if they outed this card, that it really made it hard for me to keep my board going. So I think it was time to bump it up to 2 regardless. So 2 and 2. For the traps, 2 Skill Drain still because that card's my shit, and 2 Ice Barrier. I bumped this up to 2 as well. I think that I've been finding fruition with that. The odds of, I mean, if you open up one of these and the Foolish Burial, like while I was playing 1, if you opened up the Ice Barrier and the Foolish Burial Goods, it felt kind of silly. So now knowing that you can still use it as a battle trap, and then by playing 2, you can still get your search off. Really trying to optimize on consistency for the deck. And that's really the biggest thing, is bricking does happen with this deck, guys. It is rogue, so you're not gonna have like that tier 1 consistency, but at the same point in time, being able to try and set up your board as consistently as possible, or at least being able to hinder your opponent until you do, is kind of how I try and look at the deck building for this. It is, typically it's a 3 to 4 to, and maybe, you don't really need 5 turns to win unless you really brick, but it is a 3 to 4 to turn deck. Like, you don't typically have the ability just to set up and like OTK the shit out of your opponent unless you just open up the stones. But you'll find that with this deck, you have to get a little creative with your turn 1 hand sometimes in order to live until you draw cards that you can actually play with. 40 card main deck, so nothing has changed there, but obviously other than the ratios and now the shark package. Let's do extra. So for the extra deck, Mistar, Area, and Coral Anemone. Mistar is pretty much Prosperity's fodder. Area is there for any spicy plays that might come up, but she's pretty much Prosperity fodder as well. Two-Toad, I think that works pretty well with the shark package. If you need to banish 1 for Prosperity, you can't, I don't know. Two-Toad seems to be good, because if you resolve the first one off Bahamut, that's cool. But then if you can typically, like if that's able to hold your opponent off and then your Bahamut lives, and on your next turn, you're able to resolve Bahamut again and get another Toad out. I mean, you more times than not should be winning that game if you're able to set up that many Omni Negates. 1 Nightmare Shark and 1 Golem. I got my Ultra. The only 2 Water Rank 3s that I think are necessary, good under Skill Drain. I did try playing Creature Swap with this as like a tech. Someone had commented that on the channel, which I really liked in theory. It was just kind of hard in consistency in order for them to have a setup to where, I mean, that was, I don't know. Yes, the creature, so the idea being that you can either Bahamut Shark this out, or if you summon it and Sea Stealth Attack and get it off the field whenever it comes back, it'll lose its materials. But the idea being that you can creature swap this, give it to your opponent, and they can't special summon, it's gonna sit there and burn, this can't attack, the card kind of fucks them. So that was it was a very dirty tech. I just wasn't able to find a lot of application for it, but I also can't say that I like hardcore play tested it. But I still do like these, especially under Skill Drain. This is pretty nasty. Also just good Prosperity fodder. 1 Dweller, because the card's bonkers. 2 Bahamut Sharks still. Got my second secret as well, just because my OCD wouldn't allow me to have mismatching shit in my extra deck. Now we're gonna get into some cool shit that you can see in like some of my recent videos. But the Honor Arc package, this thing is really cool for going first and or second. And this is kind of in theory where the Ring 5 engine comes into play with the Abyss Shark and whatnot. So I was playing Honor Arc for a little bit, and then we started checking in the Nash Knight with Abyss Shark and the Crystal Shark. But then also, whenever I played Kraken Control, I did kind of mess around with these for a little bit. But these are awesome for going second, because this can take any monster on the field and attach it as material that's non-targeting. You overlay this on top of him, detach a material from this guy, which then, in effect, special summons this, and Honor Arc will already be in your graveyard by then because it attaches to Nash's monster as a material by its effect as well. But then this can also attach another special summon monster on your opponent's side of the field to it as material. So effectively, I mean, you can get 2 monsters off your opponent's side of the field. If you're going second, there's a couple of, like the Valence rematch that I had, I was able to pop that off. But then, like if you are able to break your opponent's board and they go down to 1 monster, this is just a really, really effective way of clearing that 1 monster. But the idea being, though, that this kind of gives you a little bit more access to, 1 more lines in your extra deck. If you don't go for this with the Abyss and Crystal Shark, if Legendary Ocean's out on the field, they both become level 4s, so you don't have to use their effects to use them specifically for a number monster to have their levels modulated. So you can still make Bahamut Shark, and that's what I've been finding that to be pretty nice, being able to end on Toad, Jellyfish, or make a Toad first before you try and search with Kairyu-Shin, just to make sure that you don't get impermed or that can resolve. That's pretty huge. And then the 1 Zeus, just to finish off the extra deck. This cannot be special summoned the night or turn that you use Abyss Knight, or Jesus Christ, Abyss Shark, or because he locks you into water monsters. So do mind that you can't just like stack all these on top of each other, attack, and then slap Zeus on it. You have to be mindful about when the Zeus gets dropped. But he's still definitely worth playing in my opinion. That's it for the extra deck, still 15 cards. Slowly reducing the amount of link monsters. I don't know if... It's so bent for Starlight. The Star Boy, I really don't ever make, but it is nice for the utility if you ever need the attack boost and it's generic enough. I don't know if you... The extra deck is tight in the sense that you have cards that you have to play, but a lot of this is just kind of tech and whatever you deem fit. But I do think that I have it dialed in pretty well for the way that I play the deck. Now it also depends on if you're playing synchro shit or whatnot, but Hulk is gone, so those days are behind us. All right. Side deck. I think this is pretty uniform with how it's been. 3 Shifter. Still one of the best hand traps that doesn't completely lock us down, but it does typically give us a turn, which is all we need to be able to set up furthermore. But it is kind of a necessary evil. It dunks on enough decks now that I don't know if you can get away with not playing it for the time being. It did squeak in a Feather Duster on top of the 3 Cyclones. Reason I'm playing Cyclones as opposed to Lightning Storms, with our deck, especially with Maiden of the Aqua, it is, her effect doesn't work if your opponent has a field spell. So yes, being able to clear the board, or hitting multiple spells or traps with Lightning Storm is awesome, but the utility you get out of being able to make sure that your opponent doesn't maintain a field spell is huge if you're trying to maintain your lock with that. So it is a niche thing. I also like being able to play, if you're going first or second, or if you don't know, Cosmic's not always a bad option. But main reason, I guess, that over just the storms per se is just to make sure that we can hit field spells and interact with that to keep our Maiden live, because our lock is the most important part of the deck. 3 Evenly, because Dark Ruler Evenly is pretty dope. And then for the Ojama package, I took out, I'm playing 2 duo and then 3 trio. I swapped one of the duos out for the Duster just because I feel like this is definitely worth playing. But playing 5 of these, I still think that this is fucking sick. A lot of people don't see it coming. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it against Sprite or Sword Soul Tenyi if they are really good and are going to open up Vashuda every fucking time. Sprites can kind of play around this because they have Smasher, but if they don't open up that, then it's kind of hard for them to play. But Other than that, this does completely lock out most decks. So side deck is 15 cards. Wow, would you look at that? That would be the deck, guys. Nothing too crazy that's came in from the last profile, but it is different enough that I wanted to get the profile out there and make sure that you guys could go all fuck up your locals with it. I do really appreciate all the feedback and the consistency that you guys have with the videos. It is really cool to, like, I don't want to sound like a broken record every time I do one of these videos, but I do love seeing how the channel is progressing. It is really cool. We're almost on the way to 1,500 subscribers, which that is making this really fun for me. I'm trying to think about either doing like a mat, sleeves, I don't know, thinking about trying to make something for the channel that I could put out there for you guys, which would be kind of fun. But regardless, I appreciate all the support, everyone that's kind of followed along with the last year, so into 2023 now, so hopefully you can provide some dope content and everyone have a good year, man. So thank you again, everyone. I will see you guys in the next video.